In that golden age of the Jurassic, where sky-blotting sizes and endless predation ruled over everything, the most awe-inspiring presence upon the Earth was those giant sauropod monsters weighing tens of thousands of tons. Rather, it was a Jurassic miracle that seemed intentionally downsized by fate, living like a woodland sprite on a remote ocean island. Gifted with an extraordinarily elegant, slender, and streamlined frame, it possessed the exact same majestic silhouette as its colossal continental relatives, yet its size was merely on par with a gentle horse. Tonight, by the soft flicker of the hearth fire and through this narrative you need not burden your mind to remember, let us step together into the true life of the Europasaurus that watches the starry sky by the lakeside. Listen close. In the crisp, silent midnight air, there is no thunderous roar of massive carnivorous dinosaurs fracturing the ground, but only a whisper-soft, exquisitely delicate sound of lake water lapping against the shore. It is the tiny dinosaur slowly stretching its slender forelimbs, dissolving its body, still warm with the day's tranquility, entirely into the center of a damp grass nest washed silver by the moonbeams. This is the Europasaurus that watches the starry sky by the lake. In this long island night where even the wind nears a standstill, it rests quietly by the mirror-like lake. It lifts its head, completely devoid of any wild fury, as its clear eyelids reflect the slow, intersecting trajectories of two ancient celestial bodies drifting across the dark sky. This healing tableaus, a perfect convergence of ultimate smallness and the vast cosmos, flows like a silent midnight radio broadcast of soothing mantras, quietly dissolving all worldly anxieties. The critical fracture of destiny split open during a restless twilight brought by violent continental drift, where endless plumes of dark red volcanic smoke rose from the distant ocean horizon. Scalding volcanic ash interwoven with the pungent aroma of sulfur completely and ruthlessly swallowed the final remnant of warm sunlight, as every living creature bolted frantically in search of an arc to escape the catastrophe. On this narrow rocky terrace, baked and split open by the unforgiving sun, the Europasaurus was confronting the most exhausted and bewildered moment of its existence. Its physical reserves had been drained to the absolute limit during a rapid dash to escape a sudden influx of seawater at the island's edge, and dull aches radiated intermittently through the fine bones of its slender limbs. All around it, the torrent of the great island migration erupted, countless heavy feet stamping chaotically upon the ground, spreading a frantic aura of death and destruction. Existing as an insular dwarf sauropod trapped on a cramped island, its early life seemed to be a ceaseless stretch of high tension for living space, surviving amidst the perpetual crisis of resource scarcity. That behavioral withdrawal born from long-term confinement squeezed it deeply, causing a persistent, inescapable ache within its streamlined cranium. It could not fathom why smallness on this enclosed land surrounded by the ocean had to be synonymous with unending terror and defense, or why every desperate dash for survival left behind nothing but emptiness. Yet, as it dragged its streamlined frame, numb from overexertion, into this low-lying, quiet mirror lake gently cradled by a towering cliff wall, it finally ground to a halt. It chose to ignore the panicked herds rushing toward the dark ocean. Instead, it slowly lowered its slender neck, and the frantic heat in its eyes began to dissolve, step by step, under the quiet caress of the murmuring waters. Absolute darkness arrived right on schedule, spreading like a heavy, protective sheet of black velvet, ruthlessly blanketing all the panic and chaotic trampling of the island. The Europasaurus did not shiver in terror like other frightened island animals. Instead, its inner being found a serene release within the immense quietude. As the midnight chill distilled through the woods, it navigated with slow, practically soundless miniature steps, pacing deliberately through primeval grasses washed silver by the moonbeams. This vast expanse, so lethal by day, transformed under nightfall into its exclusive sanctuary. It threaded lightly through massive primitive cycads, letting go of all defensive postures. In this graceful transit, its metabolic rhythm and its heart, which had been pounding frantically from fear, began an incredible descent toward the most tranquil and tempered baseline. It no longer needed to scan for hostile warnings from aerial or continental predators. Inside this hidden canyon where even the wind neared a standstill, the dense thickets formed an invisible wall of safety. Just as it began to grow slightly warm from its wandering, its frame overtaken by waves of drowsiness, a visual miracle unfolded at the center of a moist, soil-rimmed grass bed directly ahead. Twin prehistoric moons, entirely unseen during the day, began a slow cross-trajectory deep within the starry vault as night dew coalesced upon the land. They were not as glaring as the continental sun, nor as violent as the distant volcanic eruptions. They merely traced two soft, gentle arcs across the dark sky at a speed that felt near stationary. That celestial glow was so pure, reflecting beautifully in its bright eyes, it felt like a pair of cool, gentle hands, instantly smoothing out all the tight tension remaining deep within its mind. Deeply enchanted by this ethereal and warm radiance, the Europasaurus trod upon the soft moss, unhurriedly settling down at the very edge of the lake. Free from the oppression of dominant powers and untouched by the structural crises of its era, it experienced an absolute sense of autonomy and liberty in this midnight realm reserved exclusively for itself and the twin moons. It raised its forefoot slowly, carefully clearing a patch of moss bed thick with soft ferns, its movements so light that they did not disturb a single primeval insect sleeping upon the surface. Then, it surrendered its horse-sized, exquisite body entirely, sinking without defense or worry into the warm, plush heart of the nest, which was piled high with dry leaves. Thanks to the plant and geothermal activity, the waters there maintained a gentle, warm temperature, reminiscent of a mother's embrace, exuding a comforting security that invited total surrender. The moment it settled comfortably, curling its slender tail neatly beside its flank, the lake, mirror-smooth and perfectly calm, seemed to perceive the absolute trust of this micro-life and initiated its own ritual of reflection. Not a breath of wind stirred the surface, reflecting the two massive celestial bodies that radiated a pale silver-blue luminescence, transforming the surrounding area into an inverted, limitless cosmos. The tiny dinosaur and the surrounding primitive mammals were completely enveloped by this double starlight at this moment, sinking with deliberate slowness into a tranquil dreamland. This exquisite, all-encompassing, seamless warmth felt like a monumental fortress, perfectly insulating it from the outer world's chill and the brutal slaughters of the main continent. It closed its eyes, its respiration slipping into a mystical synchronization with the subtle lapping of the lake water. Its life, which had been driven by high anxiety throughout its early days, had finally found its true harbor. The night had journeyed into its deepest, most pristine core. The long Jurassic night seemed to dissolve into an eternal adagio movement, and the little dinosaur had drifted entirely into dreamland. Within this profound sleep, those legs that had sprinted frantically by day for survival achieved absolute relaxation, every muscle fiber and ligament mending inch by inch within a wave of internal warmth. At the frontier of its dreams, the terrestrial volcanic silhouettes, the coastal floods, and the painful logic of insular dwarfism vanished completely, leaving only a warm, boundless ocean of stars. In this dreamscape, it was no longer required to maintain a mental spasm due to its small stature. It grew as unchained as a nocturnal breeze, floating weightlessly between luminescent mists and moonbeams. Its long neck seemed to transform into celestial strings capable of touching eternity, composing a silent melody across the void with every even, measured respiration. Listen closely. Its steady, miniature purring faintly echoed from the interior of the moss nest, a sound so low frequency and soothing that it awakened a soft resonance within the shadows of ancient redwoods. Each puff of warm air it exhaled condensed into a delicate white mist across the lake's ripples, drifting and scattering like a sheer, gossamer veil under the illumination of the pale starlight. Within this absolute tranquility, where even the vast ocean currents seemed stationary, its every rhythmic breath stood as the most sacred totem of sleep upon the Jurassic island. Time completely surrendered any meaning it once held, only the metronomy of its breathing and the unyielding celestial glow remained in the long night, carving the definition of peace line by line into the dark. Today, that Jurassic epoch defined by the clashing of titans and the tearing of tectonic plates has long since petrified into the black bedrock of the deepest geological strata through millions of years of continental shift. The Europasaurus that watched the starry sky by the lake, alongside those twin moon reflections that accompanied it so tenderly at midnight, have transitioned into silent, ancient skeletons showcased in the recesses of quiet museum halls. Yet, the absolute, unshakable peace and security it discovered on that freezing, distant night seemed to pierce through heavy rock formations, echoing once again tonight. The night now is profoundly deep, the roaring traffic outside and the accumulated stress of the day have receded with the twilight, leaving only this sanctuary of quiet space reserved solely for you. Can you feel it? That mirror lake aura infused with a faint woodland scent, drifting all the way from the prehistoric island, is tracing the contours of your weary thoughts, smoothing out your tightly wound soul. In this world, you never need to feel perpetual anxiety because you deem yourself not powerful or massive enough. nor do you have to prove your strength to anyone. You are fully permitted, like the petite Europasaurus, to allow yourself to be tenderly healed by the midnight hour. Let your mind align with the cadence of its extraordinarily slow breathing, beat by beat, mechanical yet utterly relaxing, feeling the drift of time and the grace of the dark. As you envision that ancient sanctuary closing softly in your mind and listen to that steady respiration echoing across hundreds of millions of years from the deep earth, your eyelids grow beautifully heavy, your frame weightless. The primordial night is gently carrying away all your fixations and fatigue. The warm dark behaves like a grand velvet blanket, holding you in a soft, peaceful embrace. Sleep now. The Europasaurus has used the tranquility of its entire life to guard this safest of prehistoric harbors for you. Close your eyes with total peace, and drift into a sweet dreamland completely free of care.